What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video where I am going to be telling you how you can build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. Yes, it is possible. Sometimes this is otherwise known as body recomposition. Things in the past to do with bodybuilding showed that doing a typical bodybuilding split, going on a crazy bulk, copying people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, those types of old school bodybuilding a few years back used to show that you only could do one or the other. You could only bulk or you could only lose fat. You had to make a choice and do one or the other. However, a lot of recent studies and evidence have shown that it is possible to do both at the same time, as long as you have an adequate amount of protein per day, your macronutrients are sufficient, and your calories, and most importantly, in regards to maintaining and preserving muscle, you are doing an adequate volume of resistance training. Again, this will be shown in the studies below. Now, I'm just going to quickly ask you to do two important things. Give the video a thumbs up if you like and enjoy it. Secondly, subscribe to this amazing channel. So before we go through the best methods to achieve body recomposition, first we need to understand the types of people that can actually achieve this, because there's a very small group of people that won't be able to do this, but you know, their stress will be very low, the sleep will be very good, they would have been optimizing their training and nutrition properly for a very long period of time and close to hitting their genetic ceiling, which is basically they can't build any more muscle, they can't get a better physique, they're just in an elite group. So the people who can do this, newbie lifters. Now, people who are new to lifting, number one, it's a new stimulus. So, hey, the muscles have woken up, they've never been used to this type of exercise before, maybe not used to heavy metabolic training, resistance training. It's kind of like high intensity, so that's going to help to increase their metabolism. It's going to help to build more muscle mass. The more muscle they have, which newbies can build quicker, the more body fat they're going to be able to burn at the same time. Even, you know, not eating too healthy, but training, you know, say 3 times a week, full body workouts. Newbie lifters doing that would definitely be able to achieve within the first couple of months a good amount of muscle gain and body fat gone, or fat loss, shall we say. So newbie lifters is the first type of group of people that will be able to achieve body recomposition. Now, the second group of people that will be able to achieve body recomposition are juice heads, people that use anabolic steroids. Now, the word anabolic means basically things are building, things are growing, okay? That's why the human body is either in a catabolic state or an anabolic state, okay? So the anabolic is basically when you're growing muscle, when your body is recovering, it's growing tissue. So it's in the name really, anabolic steroids, 100% you're going to be able to build muscle a lot quicker than people that don't use them, and at the same time, because of all the chemicals and shit that goes into them, it's going to enhance fat loss a lot quicker as well. You know, that's why people that are clearly using steroids for so much muscle mass, that's why people question how are they so lean if they've got so much muscle mass, if they're natural. That's because they're using anabolic steroids. Apologies, by the way, if the light keeps on, you know, going dead bright and then dims a little bit, but I cannot control the weather. So the third group of people that will be able to achieve this are the obese and very overweight individuals. So because they have a lot of fat stored, a lot more than, you know, a skinny fat or lean person would have, their body's able to use this as fuel very quickly and use it to fuel the muscle building process. And again, as long as resistance training, weightlifting is the stimulus to drive this, then that is going to happen a lot easier for obese and overweight individuals. Now, again, I would say minimum 3 times a week. Obviously, obese individuals, it's going to be harder for them to probably execute certain types of exercise patterns, but as long as it's some sort of resistance training, you know, where it's stop-start, similar to high intensity training, then that is definitely going to be easier for this group of people to achieve body recomp as well. Now, the fourth group of people that will be able to achieve body recomp are the detrained, which is basically someone who's been training for quite a while, and then due to an injury or something's happened, they've had to take a couple of months of training, and they've started to get a little bit skinny fat. Definitely with no weight training or resistance training, you're definitely going to lose muscle. You might not necessarily put on that much fat, but you're going to lose a lot of water, a lot of glycogen, a lot of muscle tissue very quickly, which is obviously going to have a negative effect on building muscle, losing body fat, your metabolism. So the detrained can achieve this actually quite quickly because they've got something called muscle memory. So because the muscles have been used to, you know, it could be years of weight training, and for most detrained individuals, you can see that they have got quite a, you know, decent physique compared to the average Joe, because they've been executing their exercises correctly. They probably know or should know how to lift weight in the right way. It's just they've had to take a few months off, so when it comes back into it, they can execute the exercises with the best form ever, which is actually going to help grow muscle tissue even better than, say, a newbie who cannot execute the exercise as well as what can be. So obviously, again, if you are a newbie trainer, you know, you can't just be throwing weights around, you know, you have to execute the exercises correctly. So again, someone who is detrained will instantly have that muscle memory, be able to know how to execute the exercises with correct form and follow a relatively healthy diet, and should know how to track macros and calories. So the fifth group of people that will be able to achieve body recomposition are the sub-optimized individuals. These are probably the most common in the gym. See a lot of them, speak to a lot of them. These are the men and women that think because they have a good training age, they've been going in the gym for, you know, 20 plus years, that no one can tell them how to train properly. Basically, you can fine tune your sleep. You know, if you're not getting much sleep, that plays a big part in hormonal responses, preserving muscle tissue, burning fat. So concentrate on improving your sleep, lowering your stress. Obviously, main things are you need to be doing a sufficient amount of weight training per week, at least 3 times, with at least 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week is what's recommended from a lot of studies shown. Also, you know, following a training program towards your goals, fat loss, hypertrophy, strength training, and being in a calorie surplus if you want to build muscle, or being in a calorie deficit if you want to lose body fat, and even eating the right amount of macros, most importantly protein, but carbohydrates and fats as well. So if you fine tune all those things, then you go from the sub-optimized trainee to the optimized, and doing a few of those things, even all of them, you could achieve body recomposition as well. So now let's take a look at how to actually achieve body recomposition. So the things we just spoke about, we're going to go into a bit more detail. So training. Now, when it comes to training, we're talking about weightlifting. So again, evidence out there from a lot of experts like Dr. Eric Helms, Brad Schoenfeld, different types of studies show 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week should be done. So for each muscle group you hit, 10 to 20 sets of that muscle group per week. Now, as you go to more intermediate, you want to be aiming for the 20 sets per week, and between 8 to 12 reps is the average rep range to achieve hypertrophy, which is building muscle. Now, again, whether you're building muscle or losing body fat, you should always basically be lifting weights and aiming anywhere between 8 to 12 reps is a good rep range, Again, so even if you're looking to lose body fat, you should still stick to the hypertrophy type workouts. So you can go a little bit higher, I would say 8 to 14 reps, but much higher than that, and you're going beyond hypertrophy, you're going more like endurance, high intensity, metabolic training sort of thing. That's a bit more advanced, and it could actually be detrimental to your training. So anywhere between 8 to 12 reps. Training is the main trigger of hypertrophy, training is the main trigger for recomposition overall, full stop. So, without weightlifting, without your training, you could have the best diet in the world, but you're definitely gonna lose a lot of muscle mass. Training is the trigger, the stimulus, driving force behind it all. As you can see, weightlifting is a must. It's a must, okay? So even if your diet's a little bit bad, as long as you are following a good training program with a sufficient amount of volume, weightlifting is a must, okay? Most people, again, apart from a small group, will be able to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. So you want to aim to follow a program that is based around hypertrophy, so building muscle. And hypertrophy has been shown to increase as volume increases. So we want to be following a program where volume increases as you become more advanced into your lifting. You don't really have to worry about too much about reps, sets, load lifted and volume as you're a complete newbie, but definitely you do want to follow a training program as you become more intermediate and advanced. And what volume is it's load lifted times reps times sets. Now, this can increase per week, it can increase per month, it can increase, every 6 weeks even, but there needs to be a gradual increase in volume. So things need to get harder, right? It's the progressive overload principle. You could have the best diet in the world, but if your muscles aren't being put under a certain stress by either increasing load, increasing reps, or increasing sets, then it's just not going to happen. Now, when it comes to body recomposition, the second most important thing is nutrition, and you should focus on one goal. I know we're trying to build muscle and lose body fat, but pick one goal. So if you want to lose body fat or build muscle, so be in a surplus or be in a calorie deficit. So I would say if you are a lean individual, male, 8 to 12% body fat, female, 18 to 22% body fat,
then you should look to maybe go in a slight lean bulk. Then if you are, you know, holding a bit more body fat, you are a male with 15 to 20% body fat and a female with 25 to 30% body fat, then you should look to go on a calorie deficit. So first thing to do is find out your maintenance calories. There's lots of calculators online to do this. And then obviously depending on where you're at, some of the things that I've just told you, decide if you are going to lose fat, be in a deficit, or build muscle surplus. So if you are quite lean, then I think the deficit should be, you know, slowly done. So 100 to 200 calories off the maintenance per day. If you are skinny fat, maybe holding a bit more body fat, then you should probably go to a 500 calorie deficit. Now, this is the opposite. If you are a hard gainer, you're a very skinny person, you know, you find it very hard to put on muscle, maybe be in a 500 calorie plus surplus. And if you have a lot of muscle, you can build muscle quite easily, you've got good genetics, then you could go in a lean bulk, which is maybe 100 to 200 calorie surplus. So after that, we need to look at the macronutrients. So protein, carbs, and fats. When it comes to body recomposition, the most important macro is going to be protein. Now, in between, the red line that you can see going down at the bottom of the whiteboard, that basically splits the macros into a deficit on the left side, and if you're going to go into a calorie surplus on the right hand side. So these macros are kind of in the ballpark for most people. Okay, obviously each individual is different, but for most people, these are just rough guidelines which should help you when it comes to your body recomp. So protein is by far the most important macronutrient. So 1 to 1.4 grams of protein per pound of body weight when you are in a calorie deficit, or 2.2 grams to 2.2 grams to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Then fats should be made up of 15 to 20% of your overall calorie daily intake, and carbs will basically make up the other calories. Then on the right hand side, if you were going to choose to go into a calorie surplus, then because you aren't sacrificing losing muscle, you don't need as much protein. So basically on the left hand side, you need more protein than the right because you are in a calorie deficit. So especially if you are losing quite a lot of body fat, you're trying to get lean, there's a high chance you're going to lose muscle mass as well. So that's why, to preserve as much as possible, protein needs to be higher when you're in a calorie deficit. So when you're in a calorie surplus, you don't need as much protein. So if we look at pounds, if you're trying to measure the amount of protein you need in pounds, it would be 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and 1.6 grams to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Then again, carbs would come from all the other calories. Once you've worked out fats, which this time I would say 25 to 30% of your overall daily calories should come from fats. And then once you've worked out the amount of protein and fats you need, then the rest of the calories would be made up from carbs. So there are 3 more very important factors which I think are going to help you optimize body recomposition, which are sleep,
So sleep, I think is probably one of the most underrated aspects of fitness when it comes to building muscle, losing body fat, strength, overall health. So in general, most people need around 7 to 9 hours sleep. And if you're deprived of sleep, what this can do, if you are, trying to build muscle, lose body fat, sleep deprivation can actually diminish your body's response to insulin. So if you are less responsive to insulin, then what happens is your fat cells cannot release fatty acids and lipids to burn fat as energy, which means you're going to store more fat because your body is not responsive to lipolysis, which is turning fat into fatty acids, burning fat as fuel, which means you're going to have a higher chance of storing more fat, which is why people can actually get fatty liver, diabetes. The other thing is the other hormone sleep deprivation affects, as well as insulin, is actually a hormone called ghrelin, which is to do with hunger. So ghrelin is a hormone that's released when your body is hungry. So that's why a lot of people that lose sleep, it's happened to me before. Sometimes I can go to sleep late, wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and just crave some chocolate, bit of cheese, something like that, because the hormone ghrelin makes you hungrier, and the hungrier you are, and you're waking up in the middle of the night just to get a snack, it's gonna have an effect on if you're trying to burn fat. You need to be in a calorie deficit, but if you're waking up hungry, very hungry, then obviously you're gonna eat food which might actually affect the energy balance, and you're no longer going to be in a calorie deficit. One more thing is sleep deprivation can affect cortisol levels. Now, cortisol is the hormone that is released when you are stressed. So what does cortisol do? It breaks things down. I've discussed this before. So cortisol, it can be released and it can actually slow down your metabolic rate, how quick you can actually burn fat. And the worst thing about cortisol when it comes to building muscle and losing fat at the same time is because it does break things down. Not only is it going to break down fatty acids, but it's also going to break down muscle tissue. So it's going to have a detrimental effect on building muscle and losing body fat. So take those into consideration. So nutrient timing. So some people have heard the phrase peri-workout nutrition. So basically, there's some research out there that shows it can help if you time your meals throughout the day in regularly spaced intervals. So every 2 to 3 hours, you can increase the chance of good protein synthesis by having 20 to 25 grams of protein in a meal that's regularly spaced every 2 to 3 hours. The battery went off, throughout the day. And so obviously this is going to help with the body's anabolic response, because most of the time in the 24-hour period your body is in a catabolic state, okay? Which means your body is breaking things down. Sometimes your body is anabolic, which is where your muscles are recovering, they're growing from nutrition, sleep, etc. So timing them can have a good anabolic response. Also, don't take it as gospel, but it could be wise if before a workout you have a good amount of fats, okay, complex carbohydrates such as, it could be brown rice, it could be sweet potato, it could be oats, maybe 40 to 30 minutes before you work out. So the energy is slowly released as you work out. Then during the workout itself, it can be recommended that you might want to have some fast acting sugars such as banana, maybe some dates, sometimes things like Haribo's jelly sweets can be good during the workout, and even BCAAs, which is branched chain amino acids, which is actually in the muscle tissue itself. So these might be something that you can take into consideration, but not the most important. And then post-workout, there's something called an anabolic window where people say, you should try and have some sort of fast-acting protein within 30 minutes after you've worked out, such as a whey protein. So because it's very fast-acting, it's absorbed very quickly. So one more final thing is, when you are asleep, your body is again in a catabolic state, breaking things down. So it might be wise, maybe 30 minutes before you sleep, to have a casein protein, where the protein is slowly released. So as you're asleep, it's drip fed into your body as you sleep at the same time. So again, these aren't a must. These just may help you if you're following all the other protocols of the body recon. The final detail is supplementation. So supplementation, it's called supplement because it is supplementing your diet, okay? Diet, calories are key along with weight training, but if you really want to, achieve the best hypertrophy, fat loss, body recomposition, whatever your goal is as possible, another thing is supplementation. So there's a few supplements which I would recommend from personal practice, scientific evidence, which will help you, which are protein, okay, so a protein supplement. This is very important if you are a vegan, for example, because you're not going to be able to get protein from animal sources like a lot of people can, such as chicken, eggs, fish, etc. So a protein supplement, you can get a vegan whey supplement from like some bulk powders or different companies. I'm not sure, that's the only one I know, but you can get vegan protein powders which will help with this. Also, the other supplement would be creatine. Now, creatine is very affordable. It is probably the most researched, scientifically backed, studied supplement for helping, especially with strength gains, muscle gains overall. So creatine, definitely from the research out there, is the other supplement I would recommend. The third one would be a multivitamin or greens, because if you don't really like vegetables, multivitamins, micronutrients is key. So if you do like vegetables, however, obviously along with macronutrients, you have micronutrients, which are the vitamins and minerals that you get from your vegetables and the fruits. However, along with that, a multivitamin might be good, because you could be deficient in something. You could be deficient in a certain vitamin, but if you don't have your blood work done, then you don't know if you're deficient in that or not. So a multivitamin is highly recommended. I would also say, when it comes to body recomposition, when it comes to getting the best out of your workouts, especially if you're detrained, demotivated, newbie, sub-optimized, you really need to focus. Caffeine might be another good option. However, caffeine is a little bit different to creatine because there's more of an addictive side to it. So you can tolerate being addictive to the supplements like protein and creatine, but caffeine is very addictive because it increases something called adrenaline. So obviously, when you have increased adrenaline, it's the adrenal glands that help to do this, and it puts an increased amount of dopamine into the brain. That's why you feel more awake, you feel more happy, you feel more focused. So this can obviously have a very big effect on helping you focus in your workouts. And again, achieving a good amount of muscle mass, a good amount of fat loss overall. But my recommendation would be to get a good amount of sleep, try and wake up early. Obviously this depends on your lifestyle, your job, etc. But if you can, try and cut caffeine out at around, say if you woke up at 8 o'clock, this is an example, try and cut it off at 2 p.m. because the lifetime or the half-life of caffeine is around about 5 hours. So if you cut it off at 2 o'clock, by the time you go to bed, let's say it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, then that caffeine should be slowly or nearly all out of your system by that time, and you will get a good night's sleep. So those are the other final 3 little details which I think are going to be very important to helping you to achieve body recomposition. Thanks very much for watching today's video, guys. Do hope you enjoyed it and you found it useful. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.